Why don't we get going? Welcome to the webinar. I'm Wayne Levin. I'm president of Predictum. You can see my email address and Vince Fowler, our chief software engineer, who's going to be doing the demonstration. And so Vince's email is there as well. So you're also welcome to send us email beyond the presentation. Let's get started. I'm just going to go through a few slides here, just talk a bit about the company and a little bit of background just for a couple minutes. Some of you may be new to Predictum. So we've been in business now 28 years. We are a JMP partner. We do training in JMP, and I personally have been doing that for 23 years. Can't believe it's been that long. Still doing it. We also do consulting work, and we spend a good deal of our time developing integrated analytical applications with JMP, and so we're also a JMP customization partner. And of course, it's that part of our business that we're talking about today with you. A little bit about motivation. What brought us to this point? Well, we wanted to improve supportability of the applications that we've developed or that we've been asked to support. We want to accelerate our development, and we want to track resource allocation. So it's more than just QA, which is alone big. But we've got a number of developers. In fact, we just hired a new one, and we want to know where they're working and what they're doing, and so on. And Vince will give us a little bit of insight on that as well. It's also, I mentioned QA, so it's a requirement for QA and verification, but it's also something we can use in validation. And for those of you in pharmaceutical, and we've got quite a few of you there, the IQ, OQ, PQ type of role. So we can basically automate a good deal of that. Also, just back to the resource allocation, you might say we can more easily divide and distribute work among our development team. And Vince will tell you that our development is now broken up into functions. So we define functions and deploy them to people to go and work. Again, I'll leave that for Vince to describe further. But one of the biggest things, of course, is just automation. So we automate, we have this automation to support frequent tests. In fact, that's our new development motto around here: test early and test often. And indeed we do, because it's automated. We don't have to wait a good period of time and then begin testing and then have to go all the way back, to try and figure out where the problems are. So that QA feedback comes very quickly. We do use this internally. For example, our Codebase application, which is a knowledge repository, it allows us to easily save and index JMP and other files and tag them, search them, retrieve them, compare the models, and so on. And SashLab is another internal product that we have. It's a virtual lab for modeling, compounding, and formulations. They're both pretty big applications. Actually, they're quite big. And so it's a big help in continuing to evolve them, to enhance them, and support them. It's also a big part of our Predictum system framework, which is a whole bunch of functions. You can see a bit of a snapshot here from the scripting index. So we've got lots and lots of these functions. These are reusable functions that are found in all of our projects, not only internally but externally. And the deal here is that the automation for the testing, each one of these functions, we have a rule, has to have at least one use case for automated testing, what's called Hamcrest tests, and I'll leave that to Vince to elaborate on. We also use this for client projects. So when we are tasked with building applications for clients, this is an option that we have for them, that we incorporate the testing environment, if you will, in that development. That's the best time to do it, and that makes it a lot easier to enhance and support and test. You probably know that, had that experience where you've developed something and how shall I say, Somebody asks you to enhance something and then it breaks something somewhere else. Well, what Vince is going to show you is that when we do these enhancements, these changes, whether they're for our applications internally or for client applications, we're testing everything. We're doing a whole bunch of unit testing and, of course, an integrated system test as well. Just some quick components here. We have Hamcrest unit tests. There's GitLab, which we use for project management, and what's called the CI/CD pipeline. Stands for continuous integration, continuous deployment. We have Visual Studio Code, which is an extension. And by the way, that's available for free. We'll have a link at the end where you can go to for that. 5 stars. Got 5 stars. This was actually written by Vince, and one of the raters was Vince. So, all right, we have to discount the 5 stars a little bit there. But Vince, it deserves 5 stars. Anyway, I hope everybody else agrees. So I'll provide you with that link. It's had quite a number of downloads, and we've had some nice feedback, and we're happy to contribute. And the last component of this is the Predictum system framework. So we use this environment to develop the framework components, the functions within it, but some of those functions are actually part of this integrated DevOps infrastructure that we have set up here. And with that, I'm going to stop talking, and pass this over to Vince. Vince, I'll stop sharing my screen and let you take over from here.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you, Vince.
I will steal and share. Seems to be everything going well. Pull this up. There we go. And Wayne, is this a man surfing on ham? Seems to be. Whatever. Sorry, I just saw that.
You know what? I was looking up what's the logo for Hamcrest. That's what I found.
Perfect. Like Wayne said, this all started about a year ago, because before that we had a whole bunch of disparate systems. For instance, we were using SVN for version control, another app for time management, another app for project management, another app for issue ticketing, and none of them really talked to each other all that well, which caused endless problems for project management because it was hard to keep track of what people were working on, stuff like that. Developers were spending so much time doing just tasks that, we live in the future. They should be automatable. We were, for every project that we made a release for, and we were doing, on average, like 1 release or 2 a week, would take us like 2 hours to package it, encrypt it, test the encryption. And it was just a bunch of time that didn't need to happen, and it just kept piling up. Also, our code was built originally in like Jump 5, and Jump has made leaps and bounds in scripting since then, since it was basically their second go around of scripting. We have namespaces now. They introduced classes in Jump 14, and the real catalyst for everything was this Hamcrest JSL add-in. This isn't a talk about Hamcrest specifically. If you want to see that, Justin and Evan from Jump did a great talk on it at Discovery last year. There's a link in the resources if you want to check that out. But basically, it's just a unit testing library where you can write code to test code. It's beautiful. We've needed it for a while. Mostly what I'm going to talk about today is our development environment, which is basically just, we use VSCode, which is just a text editor, but we use an add-in that we wrote to read and run Jump. Obviously, it requires Jump, but we'll talk about that. GitLab is an integrated solution for all of the disparate systems I was talking about, and we'll show that. And then PSF, you'll hear me say PSF, it's Predictum System Framework. It's basically all of our underlying code that all of our projects are built on, that with a focus on being able to do all this automated testing. And with that, we'll just start talking. Like I wasn't already talking. Okay, Wayne, is that big enough? Easy enough to see?
An old guy like me can see it.
I'll make it bigger, one more big.
Yeah, that's always better, sure.
Yeah, sure. All right, so VS Code, the extension, first off, again, it's just a text editor put out by Microsoft. It's open source. If you want the jump extension, if you go to the little extensions tab down here and you just search jump, it is the only thing currently there. And what it gives you currently, and we're trying to update it with feature requests, which is also public. So if I mouse over include, it gives you hover text. It gives you basically everything you expect from an IDE. It gives you syntax highlighting. In here, you can see it gives you the functions that I have, and you can click on them, and they go different places in the code. It gives you snippets, basically, so I can put in function and then enter it, and it'll pre-fill out all this. So if I want new function, it will pre-fill out all this. We made the snippets with natural docs comments, which is basically just a parser of your comments to automatically create developer documentation. Either way, not important. The thing that we got very recently is the ability to JSL run the current file, and you can see, hey, look, a hello world example came up. Neat. Yeah, if there are questions about that, feel free to ask them in the chat, and I'll talk about it more. But mostly, this is about our pipeline. So I'll show GitLab. GitLab is just an online repo management, similar to GitHub, but they focused on this idea of CI/CD, which is continuous improvement, or continuous integration, continuous deployment, which basically just means automated testing and all the world of DevOps that goes with it. It has time tracking, issue ticketing, some project management tools I'll show. So we can see they just released epics last month so that you can get sort of a roadmap across all your projects. We obviously haven't started using it all that much because it was just released. You can get burn down charts, and these are all just native to GitLab. That I clicked through that a little fast. My apologies. Pull it back up. So you can see, how many issues you had, and are we looking like we're going to hit that goal? Currently, this one doesn't look all that great, but we'll be fine. The big one, and the main reason we chose GitLab was because of this automated testing. For all our JSL projects, we created basically a template. So I'm just going to go to GitLab, going to go to new project, and GitLab has a bunch of preloaded templates for Jump, but we created our own user-defined one. And if we click that and say, okay, my awesome project, and then it'll make it. I'm not going to click it because it takes a minute, and I already have one pre-populated. So with the power of magic, it'll make something like this, and you'll have an automatically pre-populated repo with all the files you want, and yeah, and all of your pipeline already set up. So Wayne created me an issue that's saying, hello world should be more exciting. So the way that looks in our flow is I say, okay, yeah, that looks like it's got enough information in it. I'm going to create a merge request. which is automatically going to create the branch. And these are just standard GitLab things, but just going through them. So now I would go into my code. I'm already on this project. I'm going to fetch and check out. So now I see that I have a branch there. Now I'm on the branch. Now I'm ready to work, basically. So, and I know right where that is because we've done this. And I'm going to say, okay, Wayne wanted excitement. I'm going to put 2 exclamation points, not follow spec. And it's like, yep, I saved it. I'm good. Another good thing about VS Code is it automatically has Git integration built into it. So I can just stage my changes and say, I added bang bang to hello world. Not the best commit message, but whatever. And then I'll push it. If you don't know what pushing means in the Git world, it just means put it to the server. It was a local change. Now it's the server change. Another thing that's good about VS Code is it does have a GitLab extension. So if I just click down here, here's my merge request. It'll automatically go to the merge request. And you can see it running. It's for every push you make, it does this pipeline, which looks a bit like this. So the first thing it does is checks that all of our functions that we've created have hamcrest tests. That's one thing that's really important is like none of our functions are even allowed in the code without having proper testing on them. We just say, nope, function isn't done, even if it works, prove to us it works, basically. And then it will go through and it will test currently these 3 versions of jump, 14.3, 15, and 15.1. You can see that it's running. And if I look here, it should be pulling up jump in a second. Yeah, pulling up jump. It's going to run some stuff. It's going to close jump. You won't, yeah. Run. Cool. Yep, and then done. And then, oh, a job failed. Well, that's not good. So I'm going to go back. Nope, wrong one. To my merge request. Say, why did it fail? One beautiful thing is it tells you if you have it set up and we put this into hamcrest, it says, hey, all 3 failed for the same reason. I'm going to click it and it says, oh, well, something happened and oh, cruel irony. Okay. So I'm going to go in here, say, okay, uncruel. Oh, hey, look, well, that's not supposed to happen. If I look at my test, I want to make sure it equals to 1. And here it's looking for hello world. And it's like, okay, but why would I code to look at a string? And I don't know, bad practice. For a small story, Microsoft changed something in command where they changed the copyright string. And I don't know the company, but they were using the copyright string for something that they did with production that shut them down for many days, costing many millions of dollars. So the smallest thing can matter. So I go, okay, cool. Now I'll check hello world. Nice, happy day. I'll save that. And didn't is oh cruel irony. And I'll push that. And go back again. And it's going to run this whole thing again. After it does the testing, it will then encrypt all the files. A lot of our customers require that our projects are encrypted, and for IP reasons, we just naturally encrypt most everything. It will retest all of the encrypted files, because if you've ever worked with encrypted files, you know that jump does behave differently sometimes when things are encrypted. It will then stage it, which is just basically creating the .jump add-in out of all the files. And then the last thing it does is it checks for a time spend, basically saying to the customers, to the developers, hey, did you mark your time so we can bill time? Now, I'm going to pause here to see, Wayne, do we have any questions? Because this is going to take a second.
Yeah, actually, I'm checking the questions. Nothing yet. If you do have questions, you can, again, enter them in the Ask Question tab, which is below the viewing area. One thing, if I may, Vince, I'd like to emphasize is around the different variant tests there.
Yeah.
Quite a number of companies have more than one version of JMP running. And this is one of the challenges that they have. They go and deploy an application and it works for some and not for others. But we could add other variants to this. So for example, variant operating systems like versions of Windows. We're also working on Mac OS as well in this area. So that's another reason for doing this. And of course, we do see it. Works in 14.3 Windows 10, but doesn't work in 14.3 Windows 7. I don't know who's using Windows 7 anymore, but some folks are. Actually in pharma, you do see some older legacy systems still running. There's one other quick thought. We do get the early adopter versions from JMP. So we have clients who want us to test applications against the early adopter so that we can provide that feedback to JMP. Maybe it's a problem on the JMP side or maybe it's a problem with that application, so they know what they need to budget in terms of jumping to the next version. We do have one question that just popped up, Vince. I don't know if you want to elaborate on anything I just said, Vince, before I read the question.
No, go nuts.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can answer now, or if you want, if I may suggest, answer later. Why did you pick GitLab as your lab?
Like I was saying, it was mostly because it was an integrated solution for all of these systems that we were having issues with. Sort of a one-stop shop thing. We did look at GitHub and Jenkins or Travis, and this also came pretty highly regarded from some people I trust. So there was also that. Yeah, that's mostly why.
Cool.
So now it's going to test encrypted. We don't need to follow all this. But that's pretty much the pipeline. It's going to fail on the check time because if you look, I didn't assign any time on it, but we can just rerun that and it'll be fine. We also just recently added the ability. So in this job, JMP actually crashed from something we did. We had the ability to download. They call them artifacts, where you can go to the crash files and you can see all of the JMP crash files that were run. And this helps us, send feedback back to JMP, help them make their stuff better, while at the same time them helping us figure out what we did wrong, which we find pretty useful. That is pretty much it. If there are no questions.
Another question that's come forward, Vince. How did you transfer the Subversion repos? We were previously using Track for tickets, bug tracking and enhancements and so on. One nice difference, if I may say, did you hit this earlier, Vince? The problem with Track was that you couldn't look across projects. You could only work within type of thing. So you didn't know what was on anybody's plate. You'd have to go into every project and find out. But we also had our code in open source Subversion repos. Vince, how was the transfer from Subversion?
It's fairly simple. I'll just go here, and I should have migrating a project. It just looks like this. It's terminal commands. if those make you uncomfortable. There's probably other ways, but this is how we do it. Git just has an SVN migration tool. You just do git SVN clone, and then put in your information, and it'll transfer it from a SVN project to a Git project. And then you just push it like any other Git project. It's very simple. So, anything else?
Now, do you have more that you want to demonstrate there, Vince, or?
This will just keep running. No, pretty much this is the pipeline. Okay, check time failed because I didn't do spend 1. Now I can just run that again.
So what that's saying is
that's the pipeline, and that's our current state. It's actually not quite current of our. For instance, we have Mac and Jump 16 EA running in our real pipeline now, but it's very close to what our current pipeline is, and it's constantly improving.
So another question that's come in here, Vince, is there a template or example JSL workspace available somewhere to use the JSL extension in Visual Studio Code?
Example JSL available to use the JS extension. I'm assuming you mean for running things. There's no template to create a project like our GitLab template, where it will create all the files for you and create the pipeline. That's all done through GitLab. And it's in our instance and also suited for our projects. It has a lot of our code in it. In order to run the things, how do I show this? Where is that? When you install the extension in your VSCode folder in your I forget what this is called, your user folder. In the extensions, if you go to Jump Scripting, there is a Jump VSCode add-in that you install, and this is all in the README of the in here. It's all in the README for how to install it, and it tells you where it is. If you install that, if you go to your Jump and go to add-ins, you'll see a VSCode socket. And if you run that, that's your tunnel from VSCode to Jump. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, cool.
And then you'll be able to see in your log that all of the things that are running.
Little feedback here. Sorry, question not clear is the comment. Thank you for the questions, by the way. Keep them coming. Step 3 of JSL versus code plugin is to open a JSL workspace and start scripting.
Oh, yes. So a workspace, you can just open any folder. For instance, nope. Reveal in File Explorer. So I'm just going to right click on this folder and open in code. You can also do it from within code. You can press File, Open folder, and it will open it as a workspace. But any .jsl file will automatically be understood as JSL. In the bottom right corner, you can also, if I create a new file, right, it says plain text, but I can just select JSL, and it automatically has all the JSL features with it.
Awesome. Vince, did you not want to show, I know you have it on a slide, but a code review approval?
Oh, good point. I put that on the slide, but not my script. Yeah. Good job. Demo, merge request, hello world. Pull that back up. So once we're done with code, I would say, okay, Wayne, it's your turn to approve Wayne would go through the changes, and you right from within GitLab, you can look at the changes, and it'll show you the diffs highlighted. So it'll just be like, yep, this did what I thought it would, but Wayne might come back and say, Vincent, you were only supposed to put one bang. That's important to him. And I would then go make the code change to satisfy the reviewer. And that sometimes happens 5 or 6 times, depending on the review. But this is a great thing about GitLab, that you don't really have to, if you're reviewing a bunch of code, you don't have to go and change different projects. It's all within the issue and the merge request, and it's very traceable what code change was made for what issue. It's a thing of beauty. Yeah.
You know, it really is. This is why we're really excited to show this to everybody. We wanted to share this. It's really had just a profound effect on our development environment. This all started sort of midsummer last year, and Vince, I know you mentioned a Predictum system framework that was completely revamped. We rebuilt that from the ground up. That's something that reaches back a few years, so that's why we call it a 2.0. Anyway, just some more questions that have come in here.
Yeah.
First of all, to thank you, Vince, for answering the question about the opening JSL Workplace. That was exactly it. Another one came in. Might be outside the scope of this presentation, but seeing how is the title's modernizing, okie doke. All right, this is the challenge then. Any development work to web-enable applications. Many of our users prefer web applications. You can accomplish similar things using rShiny. Jump can't do rShiny, what rShiny does. Any ideas or plans in this direction? We can talk about this topic offline.
I could talk about it for a minute. We have had customers, if you don't know, Jump is pushing this Jump Public and Jump Live, which is basically interactive HTML run on top of a top of a Jump backend. So Jump will, but you can't create scripts for it. It's basically you create the presentation and that's what it is. It's not an interactive solution yet. I know that they've been inundated with requests for that. I don't know specifically their plans to help, and we don't currently have any outside. We do create interactive HTML projects, but not from a scripting point of view. That uses Jump. We use Python to make web apps, but in the context of Jump and web development, we don't do a whole lot of that other than reporting to web development.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, and as far as what Jump is doing with Jump Live and Jump Public, we know it's very important, very central to them. So if you haven't provided them with feedback or questions, I suggest you do. So if I may, we do have, again, if you click on the attachments tab, you'll be able to download these slides as a PDF document. So these resources are there. You can see, well, there's our website, and there's a couple for GitLab. And Hamcrest, there's a link to the community on the Jump community website. I think that's the most recent presentation that was done by Justin back in Tucson when we were able to travel. If you remember those days, and a link as well to the VSCode extension down there. So feel free to go and have a look. Vince, can you go to the next slide? I'll just kind of wrap this up.
Yeah, of course.
To We have another question coming in. I'll just take up the questions at the very end. So one thing that we do is we call it industrializing homegrown applications. That's where some of our clients have handed their applications over to us, and often these are projects that started as some individual, some engineer or scientist, trying to make his or her life easier, which is a great way to start, a great motivation to do it. Then they share it with others, and then those other people often they want enhancements and support. But the original authors have a day job, and they just don't have the time to enhance and support internally. But it is our day job. We do JSL all day and sometimes all night. So when we have these opportunities, what we do is we bring the applications into our development, into our DevOps. We incorporate PSF2 in there. We usually, look over the code and find ways to improve it. Usually, when they hand over the code, they've got requests for enhancements and so forth that come along with it. So that's just another way that we do it. We prefer to obviously do things within this DevOps just because we're a whole lot more efficient that way. Okie doke. That kind of brings us to the end of the formal thing. There's one more question sitting here. You want to go to the last slide there, Vince? May as well just leave that up. Again, that's Vince and I and our email addresses. Happy to hear from you. So a question that's floating. Let me just, okay, I just got to go to the tab. Yeah, Vince, you might want to go into full screen mode just so they can see that last slide a little easier. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to the wrong screen when I do that.
Oh, I see. You got two screens open. I know that.
Yeah. And I don't know how to switch it.
Not the end of the world. They can download it.
Oh, wait. Is it showing up in? No, it's not showing up at the right place.
It's not. So one more question so far. So if anybody has any others, we do have plenty of time. Do you have a service to assist others to adopt these practices? I guess, and another question just came in. So first I'll answer this one. We're thinking about that. We're wondering if this is something that, that others may be interested in. I can tell you, putting this in place was not a 1 week endeavor. It took many weeks, months, really, to make this happen.
And it's still happening.
And it's still happening. Yeah, we're still evolving it. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's getting better all the time, you could say. But, like I said, we have to develop a number of functions within PSF2, which kind of combines everything, makes the pipeline work. There's a lot to it. So the short answer is we'd like to be useful to everybody in the JMP community or anybody who's interested. So if you think that this is something you'd like to explore, by all means, reach out, send me an email, and I can, let's have a conversation and see what it, how it might look and what might work for you. I mean, the short end of that is, and I don't know, if you have applications you want industrialized, if you will, we could talk about doing that. But that's not putting the environment in your place. Okay, another question that's coming, but it is a question that popped into our heads. We're not pursuing it aggressively, but seriously, if any of you are interested, we'd be interested in talking about it and seeing if there is a way that we could help. Similarly, we mentioned the PSF2. There's a lot of functions there. Big, Vince, I don't know. Can you pull them up in the scripting index? Just briefly?
I don't think I have it installed right now, but I can do that. Boink. Sure.
But they're all documented within the scripting index, and it was just a question we've been kicking around here, which is, I wonder if others who do development would be interested in these functions as well. So anyway, if there's interest, reach out to me. I'd appreciate it. I'd like to explore it. It might be, I wouldn't want a type 2 error. Let's put it that way on either side. Vince, this may be a good one for you. How do you segment or partition your team, your programmers?
Yeah. Before I ask that, I will talk about the thing you just said real quick for PSF2. We have been developing it with the idea that it could possibly go to other customers in mind. Just sort of, so it's developed in a way that should, in theory, be portable to other customers. If we want to do that, I just wanted to add that to you, Wayne. But how do we segment our programmers?
Yeah.
We're pretty small, so I'm trying to make everybody kind of at least touch parts of most of our projects. Absolutely everybody touches different parts of the PSF. But for different projects, we try to rotate people in we have a lead developer, and they're always going to be the lead developer. But for the people that actually do the work, we try to rotate what projects people are working on so that everybody kind of knows all the code. And if Farhan leaves for a week, that means that we still have somebody on deck if we need to support it for something catastrophic that needs to happen right now. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I can maybe just add a little bit to it. For each of the projects, we tend to have one developer who's kind of the lead, if you will, and that developer will define functions, and and they get they're part of the issues, and then as Vince triages them, and then working with the lead developer, they get assigned. You might say that it's this, you may not like the way I'm going to put this, but it's leaning towards lean. By breaking up the work this way, it really does help us manage that way. It's one of the things that we do much better than before. Anyway, I hope that gives you some idea. And if not, feel free again, send us email and ask us to elaborate. Happy to have a call. One other question came in so far. Again, we have the time, and if it's of interest, by all means, ask questions. So I'd be interested in help setting up this type of environment. Okay, you'll have to email us. By the way, when we get the questions, we don't know who's asking. So you'll definitely need to reach out. Appreciate that it's not a one-week effort. Thank you very much for that. Where do you run GitLab? On your own servers? Well, I can answer that. The answer is yes. Or on GitHub servers? Are they running Linux or Windows? Vince, why don't you elaborate on the options?
Yeah, so GitLab is actually separate from GitHub. I kind of assumed that was a typo. But we actually do run our own instance on a Linux box. We set it up so that it's in a, what's it called, highly available setup. So it's actually technically 2 servers that jump in and out if one goes down. And yeah, it's running on a Linux box. We are thinking about possibly migrating to more cloud-based, less physical server. But for the most part, yeah, for us it's just git.predictum.com.
There you go. And that's we keep that server, it's in a secure environment.
Yep.
Where we can't even visit it. How do you like that? So anyway, that's just part of our security infrastructure. Okay. So far, any other questions? Better speak up. Vince, you want to go to that slide again, just with our email in case.
Yep.
But and I do want to say in front of everybody here, Vince, hats off to you and your team for making this happen. I mean, I've watched you sweat, I've watched you cry, and I've been really not much help.
Thanks, Wayne.
Along the way, so it really is important that I thank you. So thank you so much. We'll just end it here. Cheers.